camera would be impossible. But in these cases, people were eager and excited to talk, and I didn't feel like the camera impacted that.
Obviously, there are still atrocities going on all around the world. Syria conflict continues, and there's what happened a week ago in the Ukraine. Where are you guys focused now, and where do you see yourself starting to think about investigating in the future?
Yeah. Well, so I think Syria continues to be high up on our agenda, and I was back there in December, so we will definitely continue working on Syria and supporting our Middle East and North Africa division. As Ross mentioned, Peter, the fourth member, is now in the Central African Republic, and he's been there several times since the development started there. I'm probably off to South Sudan in a couple of weeks. You mentioned Ukraine. That's something that we're keeping a close eye on. So unfortunately, it doesn't seem that we will be out of work in the near future. But those are some of the sort of situations that we're following very closely right now.
First of all, I just wanted to thank you for your courage and for the extraordinary work that you do. So I'd really like to say thank you. And congratulate the filmmakers on a beautiful film.
Thank you.
My question is, do you worry at all that the attention and visibility that you will gain from this great film might in some way impede your ability to do your work in the future? Or that you might be somehow targeted because you threaten a lot of very serious and bad guys out there?
Excellent question, and obviously something that we thought a lot about. I think the ultimate decision was that for our team in particular, we actually have people at Human Rights Watch who have very little visibility, especially people who work in closed countries or who are nationals of the countries where they work. For our team, we actually do quite a few sort of undercover mission. I don't like the word, but that's what they are. But honestly speaking, we are in the media so much. Googling our names would let the authorities know immediately who we are. So I think we're relying not so much on the fact that our faces or names are not recognizable, but on the fact that the authorities are lazy enough to check. And I can assure you they are. Basically, from what we know, there is like a Google guy in some of the embassies when we apply for visas. And if we're lucky and the Google guy is not there, there's a chance we'll get our visas and get in. It's a real story. It's not. I'm not making it up.
Nice. I just wanted to say one thing to your first point. I'm not trying to give a sort of faux modesty because we're obviously really grateful to be recognized. Human rights activists don't get to be thanked all that often. But honestly, I've been wanting to say this the whole couple of weeks, this whole week. Feels like exactly. Which is, for me, the real heroes are not the people who can be honored, but all of these activists around the world who face incredible risk and persecution, arrest, imprisonment, and even their lives. You saw Mahmoud and Mohammed, amazing people, and we get to go back, right? We go back to Paris or Berlin or New York or whatever and have our beers and coffees, and these people are stuck there. So for me, it's something that motivates me a great deal to see their commitment, and I wonder all the time. It's something I ask myself a lot. If I were in that situation with my family there, would I do that? And I'm not so sure I would.
Okay, I see one. Question in the back.
Thank you guys for a beautiful film. I wondered what, this is for the E-team workers, what training or job experience precedes this job?
Navy SEALs.
No.
Oh, this is highly classified information. People come to Human Rights Watch with very different backgrounds. Some of us are lawyers, some are journalists, some have regional expertise. usually people come to Human Rights Watch with quite significant experience, including field experience if they're field researchers. And then they undergo a pretty intense 7-day training, orientation training, where we make sure that they are familiar with the mandate methodology, security. Ule does specifically security training. People who work in war zones or other hostile environment situations were sent to more specialized security trainings to make sure that they know how to operate in these situations. And also, everybody who starts at Human Rights Watch initially is mentored by a more senior researcher or a director, including on their first mission, so that we make sure that we really put a lot of attention to the content of our investigations, because as you could see, they get cited, and we have to swear by every word that gets into our reports, but also making sure that people are safe. Not only they know what they're doing, but that they're also safe in the field, and that's Ule's biggest nightmare, day and nightmare, but it's something we pay a lot of attention to.
I just wanted to add, I hope this film puts two myths about the human rights movement to rest. One is that we're amateurs or volunteers. This is actually a profession, and these are people who are trained professionally to do this. And Human Rights Watch doesn't rely on people who aren't trained professionally to do it. And I think, I'm 52 years old, so when I was in college, you couldn't study human rights, and there's an academic discipline now around this, and there's a way to be trained in this field. And I think the other myth about human rights activists is that we're naive. And I think that this film, I hope, has shown you that, we do really come face to face with the worst things that humanity can do. We don't have any illusions about making the world perfect or walking sunny-eyed into the future. It's not about that. We believe the world can be made better than it is, but we know pretty well how evil it consistently is.
Thanks for a wonderful film. My question, you say you're not naive, but I'm having a hard time getting my head around this idea that you can make a film like this and go into some of these regions that are known for thuggery, they're dictatorships, and not have a policy within your organization to lower the profile of people who operate to be going into the country. That's the first thing. I just wondering if you have any policy around that, where you would lower the field missions of people who have been exposed in this way. The second question is kind of off the wall. In North Korea, do you have operatives in North Korea?
Operatives, I like
the
that.
term operatives.
Or observers?
So we have many different types of staff at Human Rights Watch, and in some places, as Anya mentioned, we do have staff who keep a much lower profile. The part of the reason why I think we are successful when we are successful is because we're able to bring that personal experience with us when we speak to journalists and when we speak to policymakers. So it is incredibly impactful when we can go up and meet with a foreign minister or a prime minister and tell them, listen, forget what you heard, I was just in Syria last week. And it's also incredibly impactful to do that with journalists. So there's always that tension. Yes, to some extent, maybe it would have been to be on the extra safe side. We could have kept all our researchers in secret and let others do the job. But in order to really be effective, we have to be out there and we have to provide that personal testimony. And sometimes it backfires. Anya, when we worked on the Sri Lanka armed conflict a couple of years ago, a little bit like you saw in the Syria situation, we were able to get into a government-controlled area, into basically the military area where there was military operations. We worked there, we collected very powerful evidence, and when we came out, we decided, okay, there were two of us, one of us should go public, and do exactly that. To tell the journalists and testify before Congress and say, we were just there, this is what's going on, while the other one kept a much lower profile. For whatever reason, they decided that Anya was best suited to be on TV. And so she did that job, and as a result, she was declared persona non grata in Sri Lanka and was not able to go back. But I was able to go back 9 times later on vacation because I had not done that public job. So we try to adjust that accordingly, but to be impactful, we have to be out there and tell the stories. And your second question was on North Korea.
Yeah. What do you do in a regime like that where they're very buttoned down and it's very regimented?
So there are a couple of countries in the world where we're not able, or where we, based on a security assessment, do not go to. North Korea is one of them. We probably could get a person in there, but we feel that it's too dangerous. Iran is another country where we could get a person in there if we wanted to, but we also know that if they were discovered, the Iranian government is likely to put that person away for quite a long time. And in these situations, it is the method that we operate is to really speak with refugee populations. We go and conduct dozens, hundreds of interviews with people who have just come out of those countries, corroborate using the same methodology, using satellite imagery, using photos and videos as well to corroborate their testimony, and base our findings on that. So basically we have to adjust our methodology a little bit according to the situation, but it all comes back to gathering the evidence and corroborating it.
And we have time for one more question.